Many people dream of owning a business and working for themselves. And whether or not you're going to follow through and actually do this, it's really important to spend some time thinking about it and what that might mean for you and your lifestyle. I've owned my business for 7 years now, and I wanted to share with you some of the most important takeaways from that experience, and I hope that maybe it'll save you some trouble and some time. We have this kind of toxic narrative in our modern culture that you have to pull yourself up by your bootstraps and do everything yourself, or it's not worth anything, or you didn't earn it, and that's entirely untrue. The fact of the matter is that nobody, no matter how innovative or enterprising, did it all themselves. They relied on the ingenuity and research of thousands of years of human thinking, and they needed the infrastructure that we've invested in for generations. So whatever they put forth was really just them making a choice, being able to dedicate their time and their focus and attention on something. That is the essence of all human ambition, just making a choice and following through. And in most cases, performing some small action over and over and over again, right? A painting is just thousands of strokes. Each brushstroke itself isn't really that difficult to execute. No special skill is necessary to do every single one. And yeah, there are artistic rules and principles that can make something more visually appealing, but those are largely subjective and vary with individual tastes. So those don't really mean a damn thing if you don't sit down and follow through. You have to do every single little motion to come up with a complete work. So I started writing a book about the nitty-gritty details of product development, business management, and the focus was on upcycled materials. I might finish that someday, but I thought about the best way to make that information accessible and cohesive, and this channel has taken top priority over that because books are really important, but it's just kind of the mode that we're in, that people don't take a lot of time to sit and read a book, and it's not really accessible to a lot of people. So we have this great opportunity now with YouTube to reach more people all around the world and convey this type of information. I also really wanted to tie my business learning in more with the spiritual content that's the focus of this channel. I haven't really done it quite in that way, so I'm kind of stoked right now to get that opportunity. It might not exactly be the order that I was planning on releasing videos, but I was just really feeling it today. So let's talk specifically how to make your work life support your lifestyle and help you become the person that you really want to be instead of turning you into somebody that you don't like. Okay? So the biggest point that I want to get across to you, don't do what I did, okay? You do not need to jump into actually incorporating a business to do what you want necessarily. I made the mistake early on of jumping right in, filing right away, and dotting all my I's and crossing T's. But most places you really don't even need to do this unless you make a certain amount. So for me, it kind of added this level of formality and pressure. And it put me into this box with everybody else and their expectations. I got caught up in the statistics, that most businesses fail, and I thought about giving up sometimes because I wasn't really fitting the typical narrative of success, and I think that I really could have avoided all that unnecessary stress by giving myself more room to experiment and fail and to get my rhythm before filing. But I guess on the plus side, it looks impressive on paper that I've been going this long on it. We really don't need to do that, though. You can just get started and set your sights on quantity. That sounds really counterintuitive, but focus on quantity and just doing a lot of it, and the results will come. Don't cut corners on quality, obviously, but the laser focus that I had on making the most quality possible product actually kind of limited me from doing that when I really should have been getting the practice in and making mistakes. So don't get in the mindset that It has to be perfect. And also don't feel like you're wasting material when you're making those mistakes. It's an investment in you. And you learn a lot more by just going through the motions and doing it yourself. So there's really nothing more valuable in the world than that, and it's worth it, even if you wreck a lot of stuff. I know a lot of people that actually went to school for business and they don't own one. I've learned a whole lot more just from running one and doing it myself and going through these trials, than they did from really expensive college courses. And, for a fraction of the cost, I'm already profitable and I have something to show. If you don't start your business kind of tandem while you're in school, or at least, your first one, and start to learn some of those things hands-on, you're not really getting the biggest value out of your learning, I don't think. So you can avoid all of that just by learning some of these things. How cool. I saved you a bunch of money. The golden rule, though, is this. Whichever way you do go, if you do start going to school for business, if you actually go the Inc. or LLC route, it's going to be 3 years before you're profitable. That's the magic number. I don't know why. I didn't believe it. I thought it was dumb. But for whatever arbitrary reason in the universe, after 3 years, that's when it really starts to come to fruition, no matter how hard you're going on it during that time. So if you calculate, 3 years from when you started to take it seriously, whatever that kind of means for you, that's the point where it's gonna kind of be what it is. So, for instance, if you've been doing it seriously but didn't file yet, you would go from the time when you started kind of doing it at least as much as you would a part-time job. That's what I kind of consider to be doing it seriously. That's being actively engaged with it, testing new things if you're developing a product, really seriously studying if you're offering a service, So 3 years. That sounds kind of harsh, but it's actually super liberating, because for one thing, it's less time than it takes for, a standard 4-year degree. If you do start your business kind of somewhere through college, you'll have more at the far end. But it's also super liberating because that gives you so much freedom to mess around and to experiment during that period, knowing it doesn't really matter exactly what you do during that first period. I really wish that I had known that when I was 1 year in. And there isn't any magical special try hard thing that you have to do to speed things up. It's gonna happen if you stick it out for that duration of time and you're putting some effort in, even if you're not right all the time. After 3 years, you're gonna have something really great to show for all of that effort. So it's kind of cool. It's like a promise. I really wish that I had focused on honing my craft and avoided some of the temptations. In my case, it was wasting money on trade shows. If I had had the confidence in my brand and my e-commerce presence, and I just focused solely on that, instead of trying to be the hybrid business that I was trying to create, I really could have saved a lot of strain. That's not true for everybody by any stretch, but for my business model, that happened to be true. It was fun sometimes, though, to do the trade shows. Sometimes it was a really positive experience. Sometimes it was really soul crushing. So you have to be careful, because even when you work for yourself, you can still fall into that trap. Your business, craft, or service becomes a reflection of who you are. And this is the exact reason why we get so soul crushed a lot in modern occupations, and our work life can have such a negative impact on the rest of our life. So I will probably come back and touch on actual business tips in a later video if that's something that people are really interested in hearing about. Right now, what I want to do is get you into the right frame of mind about work. Focus on the mental aspect of work and what it means for you, regardless of whether you work for someone else or what the model of that business is. These are some truths that will really give you more sovereignty and control in your life. So it's a really good idea at this point to grab a notebook and write down your personal answers to some of these points as they spring to mind. So take a moment to do that now, or just pause here to think about for a moment your ideal life. What do you want really bad right now? What's the biggest obstacle that's getting in the way of that? Is it your job? Be honest. Don't say money. Money fluctuates a lot, right? Think about what it is in your work situation that is keeping you from pursuing your real dreams. And I bet that what I'm about to tell you is going to help you a lot with that. Trust me, okay? Take a quick moment to geek out just a bit, though, about what really lights you up and the possibility that you could have it. So, the biggest revelation about work and money that really allowed me to create the life that I love was that the hourly wage model we have to frame our way of thinking about money and value of time it's just profoundly inaccurate and deeply flawed. Not just on a socio-political level, that's a totally different talk we could have, but I mean the way that it forces us to internalize our own feelings about value and the way it causes us to view and treat each other and ourselves. And that is really completely artificial. Not only is it artificial, but it makes it really hard to see the big picture of our finances, and it makes it really easy to make mistakes and to get backed up against a wall and stressed out. This is very intentional. It keeps us nicely under control, right? But we can change a lot about our lives just by changing the way that we view it. I realize it sounds very... I know. I'm telling you legitimately because this is something that I did, and I didn't learn this from any book or anywhere. This is information that's coming from having done it that much, and that's why I vouch for it. You know, this mental framework that I've created for myself from actively engaging in this process, it's not really something that I can just tell you and you're going to get it. You're going to have to live it in some way. But I'm telling you that this concept, when fully internalized, can really revolutionize the way that you view a lot of things. So take my word for it. It does come from somewhere real. It just sounds... I know. It sounds kind of facetious, kind of obvious, kind of smart alecky when you're just like, here's my clickbait, here's my YouTube video, get rich quick. It's nothing like that. There's nothing quick about this. There's no shortcut for this. It took a lot of screw ups, a lot of time, a lot of pain, a lot of suffering, a lot of self-doubt. This is coming from a very authentic place. Think about how much you need to make per day to maintain the lifestyle that you want. Don't just go, well, I make X amount an hour for Y number of days, so it's this much. No, that's not what we're doing. First off, you probably didn't calculate tax and expenses right, and you're about to make yourself sad if you do that. Don't. Also, because likely that's just the offer that someone else made to you, right? Your job that you have right now, hourly. You didn't pick that. Those wouldn't have been the parameters that you would want if you were setting it up yourself. So throw all of that out, right? Let's look at it in a completely different way. So how much do you need to make per day? Do you want to have certain days off? Do you want half days? You know, plan exactly the schedule that you would want if you could have it exactly your way. Within reason. Obviously, you can't have every single day off and make all of your money in one day. That's not realistic. Be realistic about it. Think about what your schedule would be like on a weekly basis. Don't worry about holidays or anything weird. Just the average. Write it down. Write down your plan. If you have certain activities or classes, make those a top priority if it's like a regular thing. Only what's every single week. Set in stone kind of things. Don't worry about appointments or varying engagements, you know. Just if it requires a long travel time or commitment, it's something you really need to take like a whole half day out of. So for the ease of our example, and because from experience it's a pretty comfortable amount to shoot for, at least here where I am in America, it is unfortunately about double what most minimal hourly wage earners are making. Let's just say you need $100 a day to earn a comfortable living. For those that just went, wow, that's a lot of money, hang in here with me. It's gonna be okay. And I'm really proud of you for watching this and fighting so hard. For me, in my e-commerce model, I do both custom and stock. I don't recommend this. It makes for a lot of labor, but that's what ended up working for me. Everybody's different. So how this might look, if we crunch it out, is that I need to sell $100 worth of stuff every day. That's my minimum, that's my goal, whatever. So I need to produce at least that much labor per day in order to keep ahead of my order queue or keep level with it. And I also want to keep enough in stock to reliably get that every single day, to have enough selections that I know I'm going to make that much. So let's say that I make another $50 worth of stock items per day to keep ahead of that. If I actually want to grow or get ahead, or I'm really busy, I have a lot of orders in my queue, then I'll do another $50 worth of work. So let's just round it out and say that for my business model and my needs, I need to make about $200 worth of work on a full day to make $100 reliably every day. But at the same time, if I don't do that, I need to take a day off. It's not a big deal at all because that revenue will keep on going. I'll still be getting those sales regardless of what work I complete on that day because of the way that I've set it up with my e-commerce. So I have a lot of freedom to choose my schedule, take half days or whatever I want to do. Producing that much value for me based on my batching usually only takes 5 to 6 hours. And that's a pretty full day. And then the rest of the time is mine. Or conversely, I can make that time less efficient by watching documentaries or taking courses, and having a really chill paced day. I can kind of multitask, I can listen to audiobooks or what have you, which is really nice. So I get geeked about that kind of stuff. This to me is the fun part of this math equation if you're a person who's actually going to make a product, is, figuring out exactly what you want your workday to look like and getting more enjoyment out of it by being able to do these other things and having freedom in your schedule. I find it very fun and exciting. Work is no longer really work to me because I enjoy it so much. My product doesn't have like a dry time, a set time, or a chemical reaction that I have to factor in. But if yours does, then you will want to think about which days of the week are going to be that you're going to be running batches on and kind of like what the steps are. So it's a little bit different of a thinking, but the same overall concept of looking at this average of money rather than the hourly wage. My friends do ceramics. I love them very much. They do a great job. And I don't even pretend to understand exactly what their batching crunches out to. They're really good about posting on social media, showing a lot of their process, and I haven't really internalized what any of the time durations are. But roughly, basically how I think it works, right, is that they'll work together on throwing an entire batch, enough to fill their kiln, and they'll do that on one day and then leave those to get leather dry, and they'll do carving on them later. So that's a different step. And then as that's happening, they'll take the next day to do another stage of the process, do the glazing, and then they'll rotate and they'll unload the kiln, load in the stuff that had been done earlier that week. So the batching is kind of, they're doing a task per day rather than producing an entire product per day like I do. So there's just different pacing, different times that you're averaging out the value of. But this would be true if you do something like botanicals, something like making soap, where you're harvesting in batches. So you want to set up your storefront or your show schedule to harmonize with that and figure out your rhythm. So you might think of your week a little bit differently from my example. But I think how this would crunch out, I don't know the exact money numbers, but this is kind of what I thought might be comparable to what we said before. You don't have a guaranteed sellout necessarily when you do a show. So you want to have more profit potential available on the table than what you need to take home to call it a good show, right? So if we aren't messing with custom orders, because they're not dumb like me, let's look at, you want to have $1,000 a week that you're pulling in, right, for that type of business, let's just say. So, like I said, maybe Monday, you start your production run. They're going to take a day off, take Sunday off. So Monday is starting production of one cycle, whatever that is, and then they're going to show on Saturday, let's just say. So, you're doing all your throwing Monday, and that's a long day. And then maybe the next 2 days are a full work day, and different steps are done. And then maybe the last Thursday, Friday are kind of half days, and they're spent loading up and prepping for the show and whatever finishing touches. And then Saturday is a full day of showing, going to the market. So that would be comparable to another person's 9 to 5 full work week. You're working your full 5 days, spread out a little bit. Let's say that they do pretty good and they pull down $750. And then they can either list the rest online or roll that into the next week's stock for the market. So let's say you're kind of having this rollover income per week of the extra profit potential that you created. You're still not netting 100, let's say, percent of what you're making, but all around your cycle is giving you an average of about $850 a week in keeping that work cycle. So think about that amount of money, right? That's fairly realistic. There are definitely people that I know that's kind of the range that they're in. They're comfortable. And all things considered around here, that's not a bad amount of money. So think about it for you, though. Would that be a comfortable living for you? What would either of those two examples that we had actual numbers for do for you? What could they enable you to do? Could you meet fitness goals? Could you go back to school? Could you be available as a caretaker for someone that you care about? Could you pursue your personal dreams? Meditate, work on community projects? Could you mentor someone? I don't know quite as much about the service industry, and I can't really report about more passive income from investments or from publishing, but when I do end up publishing, I'll do another video and report more about what that income kind of looks like. I just don't have personal experience, so I can't present to you. But let's just look at a service industry example I know a little bit about. Maybe you're a massage therapist. So you rent a studio, maybe like a room at a salon, and let's say that runs about $100 per week. Of course, the booth rent varies greatly based on location, but around here it'd be about $100 a week. So you take a couple days off per week. You're appointment only. So that does leave you with quite a lot of half days or not full days based on when the appointments land. But you really only need to do a couple massages a day to meet kind of your minimum quota. So you want to make at least $100 a day. But on a busy day, you might make up to $500. So let's just say, after your booth rental, you're averaging $1,000 a week. Same as the ceramics people from that example. So service industry does, for the most part, rely very much still on the hourly wage system or hourly appointment system. So it's probably sounding exactly the same to you unless you've, already work in that mode, and maybe this part will be helpful to you. Try to stretch out your thinking if you are in that mode to a larger interval. Think about not just what you take down per day, but per week and per month, and think about what amount of money change or increase will actually change your lifestyle and what you're able to do. How much more do you have to be making for something in your life to be truly different? That's the kind of thinking that I want you to start doing if you have been stuck in this mode of your hourly grind job, minimum wage, hopefully not minimum, but I want you to think about what might allow you to start setting up investments, starting a side hustle, starting a business, because it is quite a lot safer, of course, to do that if you have something set up already. And it's always a good idea to have a side hustle regardless of what else is going on. You never know what's going to change your life. You want to be as adaptable as possible. And it doesn't take too much to take a hobby that you're already pretty good at and turn it into something that could provide you supplemental income and help you achieve another one of your goals. So instead of thinking about it in small incremental raises, right? I'm up for review and I could get another 15-cent raise. That's like a whole $5 more per week, right? That's not going to change your lifestyle, really, in any meaningful way. So think about something more like, what can I do to make another $50 per week in order to cover this workshop fee? You know, maybe there's a class you want to take or something. Figure out in a more barter type of way what value you can trade for that value. So you're not factoring into your basic income and expense calculation. So as you start to think about your money intake in this different way, just with how things are right now, think about making that proportional to your expenses, obviously. I'm not going to go too much into this because this is basic finances. But you want to get that calculation down. Figure out, first of all, if there's anything undesirable that you can cut out right away. Think about it in a financial way if you haven't really motivated yourself in that way to begin with. Something like, you know, alcohol, pop, smoking, something that you know you can get rid of and probably should. You can use money as a really great motivator to kick bad habits, you know, if you care about money like I do. When you start to see the way that something like a pack a week adds up, you know, you'll be motivated to quit smoking, because think about something that you really want that's really going to be more valuable for you and make you happy, and realize, like, I'm spending so much on cigarettes, I could take this workshop that I'd really rather work on. You know, put things, apples to oranges, really compare things in that materialistic way, and it can really shift the way that you think about things. Not just like, oh, I should do this because I'm supposed to. No, think about what you want, not just what you're supposed to do or what society tells you to do. Think about what's right for you and what's going to improve the value of your life. So you want to get into a comfortable financial visual where your money intake is leaving you a bit left over, you know, for savings and for emergencies. You know, obviously you don't want to be in the red. So if you're already in the red, let's get out of that situation first. But if you're kind of comfortable, you know, the goal is to keep incrementally becoming more comfortable, but not at the expense of having to spend so much time, say for overtime, right? You don't want to be working so much overtime that you're actually creating a less quality life for yourself. Basically, that's not really a good trade. So you want to be in a good place where that finance is comfortable, and then also you leave time in your schedule to do things that are important to you. That's the dream, that's the goal, and that's the baseline. So what starts to happen, and kind of the point of this video, it's very hard to just put this in a clickbait title, but like what happened for me after doing this, how much do I need to make per day, thinking about things more as my weekly income or monthly, you know, looking at broader projections rather than, you know, kind of zeroing in like, I want the job with the best possible wage because that'll add up, right? Instead of relying on pennies to add up, you know, looking at the bigger picture, what started to happen to me is I don't really even think about things in terms of their money value anymore. And I know it sounds a bit odd, but when I'm considering a purchase that I want to make, I think about how many units it is. And yeah, if I want to go out to lunch, it's half a unit. If I get real fancy and, you know, I treat someone. Most other fun activities are like that, you know, going to the aquarium, going to festival, going rock climbing, something like that. My mortgage is about 20 units, right? Car insurance is about 4. A week of groceries is about 6. On a regular work day, I'm producing anywhere between 5 and 10 units. Today I'm working on videos, so I might just do my minimum of 3. That's kind of like the break. Even if I do that every day, I can take lots of time off if I want to. So I try not to fall behind to do at least 3. But my headspace has been so radically altered by this mode of thinking. I can really quickly identify and calculate the correlation between something I want to buy or do and how much I need to do to pay for it. I can just be like, oh, I need a new camera. Better make a couple extra units tonight. And then it's done. It's off the books, right? I don't have to think about recurring, spacing out a payment plan or recurring payments for it. It's just done. This is how many units it is. It's already accounted for. So there's no shortages, there's no surprises. If I need a sick day, my schedule is already padded, so I can take it. It doesn't cost me anything. I might have to make up for it later by working a little extra if there's orders due, right, to meet deadlines because I do the custom thing. But it doesn't actually cost me anything. We have situations like in the food industry where people, they literally can't afford to take time off even when they have communicable diseases, and they super extra should not be handling other people's food. Late stage capitalism though, right? What can you do? But it costs so much to do this in the long run. Not only is it making everyone sicker and more miserable, but it costs. We lose a lot of productivity by not just staying home when we should. It's stupid. So being able to visualize your finances in this way gives you a lot more room for prevention of stuff like that. Taking sick days when you need to, being able to attend to serious health problems without having to worry about losing your job. You want that comfort, you want that padding. You don't need to be so stressed out in life that it's paycheck to paycheck and one false move and you're out of a job. That's no good. It's no way to live. And that really prevents you from being able to cultivate your life. So that's why we're talking about it now in conjunction with the spiritual topics, because I know that, I can tell you till the cows come home, like, oh, meditate, do these things. And it just doesn't matter if you're being held hostage by your finances. It's kind of mean for me to try to tell you to do those things. So, if you have been taking notes and you're looking at some of the goals that you've written down and looked at some of the amounts that I've talked about, and the job that you're in right now is not putting you anywhere near them, no worries. I know that sounds very naive, but if you hate that job, just start changing your mode of thinking. And it's going to make it a lot easier to pursue a new one. You will be able to bargain on a totally different way when you start looking at what the offers actually are and the totality of the lifestyle that they're about to offer you with this new job prospect. You'll be a lot more empowered to say no to things that are going to make you miserable. And I've been in that place, believe me. I have done some awful jobs. I've done some stuff. Because you have to pay the bills, and you get in that place where you feel like you have to work hard. You have to take every opportunity that's given to you. You can't say no if anything's even available. I graduated at the dawn of the Great Recession here, and that was fun. You do get in that headspace of like you can't possibly turn anything down because you're not sure if there's going to be another opportunity. You're not sure if there's going to be another offer made to you, so you take any job that comes along. But it doesn't have to be that way, and it's hard to hear, but sometimes it's a lot better for you in the long run if you don't get stuck doing those things. If you were raised like me here in the Midwest, with our strong union values, there's nothing wrong with it, but like being told your whole life, just work hard, put your head down, put your nose to the grindstone, and just power through. That was true maybe at one point, but it's really been used to take advantage of people around here and to try to rope them into staying with a job longer than they should and do things that they really don't want to do and are depreciating the value of their life. They're causing health problems and keeping them hostage in a bad situation under duress because they feel like they can't possibly leave this job, or like, oh, I've put in so much time, it's got to pan out someday, they're gonna fulfill their promises of these raises or these so just be very cautious if that's a mindset that you've been brought up in, to question that and question, what you're really capable of, because it's more than you might think. It really is. And starting a business, it might seem very daunting, it might seem very hard, but you don't have to go that whole route. You don't have to start a business and incorporate and do all these things. You can kind of just start doing your thing and see where it goes. And it will recoup its own value, at the very least. You never know what it might be applicable to later in life either. So, money is a construct. So, using it in intention setting, just going like, I need more money so that I can go do the things that I want to and have the freedom that I want in life, that doesn't necessarily work. Whenever we do any sort of goal mapping or intention setting, it's important to be incredibly specific. That means number crunching, but crunch those numbers and get them out of the way if possible. Thinking in units gives you so much more control, because those units are inseparable from the lifestyle that generates them. Ooh, I like that. Okay. One more time for the people in the back. Your units of productivity are inseparable from the lifestyle that creates them. So if you're deficient in your units, it is because you're deficient in your lifestyle. It might be that you're not sleeping well, you're not energized, you're not able to be very efficient because of these things. Maybe you're not eating right. Or maybe you're not doing anything that really fulfills you and you're just crushed. You're not really working hard because it's not going anywhere. I know what it's like to be unmotivated. It sucks. So, in order to be the most profitable, you need to figure out what lifestyle conditions generate your best work. And it's not just do more. It's not just grind harder. That is not how it works. There's a sweet spot that you have to get to. Because if you start to overwork, you lose efficiency. They've done tons and tons of studies about this. We're all familiar with the lovely utopian European model where, they work less and take more time off and actually get more work done. That's actually true, okay? That's a legitimate phenomenon. And in my business, it's 1,000% true. Anything that I try to do over 8 units per day, it starts to take me a lot longer to do them. So I'm losing the value out of it. It's really not even worth it for me to try to do that. I can't just overproduce to create more value. There's just only so much that you can do in a day, or should do in a day. And depriving myself of the time that I could be spending taking care of myself or doing something fulfilling is detracting from my efficiency for the rest of the week as well. So you have to be very careful to find that sweet spot in any kind of job that you're doing. Not only that, but if you don't take enough time off, you might get sick. You're going to be run down. So you want to really invest in your health and make sure that you're keeping up your vitality. So this blanket 40-hour week is so bad. It's not appropriate for everyone. Having no control over your hours as units, either because you don't have any say in your work schedule, or you have varying shifts that make it really hard to form good habits, or you're running the risk of your boss shorting you on hours based on their mood or inclination. That makes us very vulnerable. And when we're vulnerable, we're not effective. So I really hope that this concept is going to help you take some of your power back. If you find this helpful, please let me know. And I will keep making content in this direction. That's not just the usual YouTubeism of like and share. No, and saying, please give me honest feedback if this is the direction that you'd like to see, because this wasn't planned at all, this video. I just felt like doing today. Doesn't really fit in with the schedule that I've been wanting to keep. So, I need to actually hear that honest feedback if we want to produce more of it. These concepts are going to become really clear later on, why they're so important to the spiritual work and having people be liberated in their schedule. It's all well and good to say, free your mind, think for yourself. But with such a large portion of humanity actively under duress, that's just kind of cruel, okay? I used to host and coordinate trade shows to support the local business owners like me, in the hopes of setting up some community and infrastructure to help people be free from the grind and to have more opportunities. It was a really incredible time of my life, but I soon realized that something more extreme needs to be done. A lot of the mentality that I grew up with, the things that we tried to build as a community, have a positive impact on the environment, they might have worked if absolutely everyone in the world had done them a decade ago, right? But the rate of deterioration has so vastly accelerated. And if you're here with me right now hearing that, please don't be frightened. Because if we weren't actually able to do something about it, we wouldn't be connecting right now at all. You made it here, and we're talking about it right now. So this in itself is verifying the potential that we have to work together and do something about it. So don't take it as a threat or as a frighten. Global warming is quite the buzzword, but the fact of the matter is we made this problem, and we can fix it. A little personal accountability goes a long way, but not in just the everybody recycle kind of 90s way that we were instructed, right? We're going to have to do something a little bit more extreme, but this in and of itself is more extreme. This is more connected. This is more more powerful of a human experience already. It's miraculous, right? And it's only building speed. Plant the seeds of thinking about money and time differently in your heart. I'm so fortunate and so grateful and so blessed that I did this years ago, and I was able to get out of the bad situation that I was in. And now I have the freedom to potentially help people and be generous with my spirit instead of having to hoard myself in order to pay bills. You are a human being with hopes and dreams and ambitions. You're not a wage slave. And I pray that my content helps to validate that in a way that you can actually feel and that energizes you. And I know what it's like to be surrounded with these videos and this chorus of posy vibes, good juju, and yet you still feel shackled. But this is one part of your frame of mind, not just thinking more positively, but thinking more objectively about the deception that is used, which is the hourly wage itself. The thought of money as a unit, an hourly unit of time. So meditate about it, internalize it, start to figure out what the unit is of yourself that you want to trade for someone else's units. Don't just think of it as selling hours of your life, because that's very soul crushing. It's a very depressing way to think, and it's not entirely accurate, and it's not very helpful to actually getting out of it. So thank you so much for spending this time with me. Sorry if it was a little all over the place. It's a very abstract concept, and I'm just so glad that you came to watch this and to share this part of my life. I hope you find value in it. Blessings.